Hello, brothers. My name is Bangco, your Vice President for Student Affairs, and I am here with our VPCM, and we are going to talk a little bit more about hazing prevention. As you know, starting September 22nd to September 28th, or just the last full week of September, is National Hazing Prevention Week. And if you follow us on social media, our Facebook page, our Instagram, our Twitter, we've been trying to be really consistent about the information that we're posting and being really vigilant about calling or shedding light on our effort to promote anti-hazing knowledge, and by educating our members on how to take a stand, how to be a bystander, how to intervene. So to really connect things that we have already learned this week to the rest of the year, to our membership education, to our policies, Jessica is going to talk a little bit about it. And again, our VPCM handles a lot of not only the colonization aspect and the membership aspect, but also some of the underlying issues that she is working on promoting, and really the longevity of our organization as a whole. So, she's focused on the membership side of it, but also the organization side of it as well. So, Jessica, you can go ahead and take the lead on this.
Yeah, thanks, Bong, for doing this video and the work of you and the communications team this week. Brothers, there's some great resources if you look on our social media regarding the definition of hazing, how to report, how to recognize signs of it. So please check that out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Bong and I wanted to have a conversation about kind of making a connection between some of the resources we've posted and what that means to be, or how that connects to Kappa Kappa Psi specifically. So one of the conversations topics that we were discussing was the idea of traditions. Because oftentimes, whenever we get a possible risk management violation that comes our way, it's usually surrounding membership education, and we uncover things that are a tradition or something that the chapter has done for a really long time, and they don't even know why. Sometimes there's pressure to continue the activity from alumni or older members because this is the way we've always done it, or we have to have XYZ thing in our process, because if not, then it's not our membership education program. And I want to challenge you on that, brothers. If you are beginning membership education, if you are planning membership education, to take a moment as a chapter and be very reflective about the activities that you do and why you do them. What's the purpose of the activity? Is it in line with our values? Would you complete that activity if your band director was there? Would you complete that activity in front of your parents? Is that activity bringing value to the process? Or is it just something that you want to do because everybody else did it? Is it in line with our policies? Is it intentional and reflective and makes students or candidates reflect on our values? Or is it just something that's intended to see something they have to prove themselves? And so I challenge you to be very intentional, very reflective about these activities and determine, one, is the activity something that can be done or must be done during membership education, or is it something that can be done later? Is it really necessary? Two, is this activity something that brings value to the membership education process? Are they learning something from it? Three, is this activity something that's in line with our policies? So on our website, you can go to policies and you can bring up all of our policies. You can also, they're in the membership candidate registration form. You can see them there. A lot of people don't realize all of the policies that we do have. People are most familiar with our hazing policy and our alcohol policy. But we also have a policy on sweethearts. We have guidelines for new member presentation shows. We have a policy on branding and scarification, and sexual misconduct. And there's a reason why we built into the orientation meeting the review of these policies. One, because you're supposed to review them yearly anyway, but two, to make sure that before we start membership education, every member of the chapter and every going to be candidate has an opportunity to review these policies, read them, reflect on them, and make sure that they are keeping their behavior and the chapter's behavior in line with these policies. And I think that sometimes that can be a difficult conversation, Bong. You know, like if you have to challenge an older member on something like greetings or carrying a book or interviews or some of these things that the chapter might be doing that's not in line with the Road to Wisdom anymore, or memorization. And I think that it can be a difficult conversation when it's a brother that you respect or looked up to and has been in the chapter a while. So I mean, have you come across that at all, or do you have any thoughts on how to have kind of those conversations with the older brother that might be bringing up something that could be a little questionable?
Sure. Yeah. No. That's a great question. And for me, just going off of my personal experience within my chapter, there were times where you felt like you were dishonoring or you were disrespecting the chapter by not doing a certain event, by not following along, or just by simply not just being a part of a clique. And it honestly is such a hard conversation to have sometimes, especially if you are younger, if you're new, you're trying to kind of fit yourself into these situations. You want to fit yourself into the chapter, into these cliques, because we're trying to find a place where we belong. We're so out of our comfort zone when we come to college. So that's why for me, I really do appreciate the implementation of these activity reviews. And I will admit, when, as a CA the past couple of years, I was a little bit concerned about, some chapters losing their I guess their personal touch or their uniqueness. But now I can, now seeing this side of it, seeing that this is really here to protect our members and really to protect our organization, I think these reviews are a great way of assessing the purpose of our activities and really making us think deeper. It's like, why are we doing this? And on the other end, also, I think it helps us think about how to make these events better and how to create a better experience for our membership candidates. And when you really look at it in the big picture, I think when we put this much energy and emphasis and heart into this type of work with these activity reviews and just really thinking through these activities, I think we are creating a stronger educational program for our brothers to learn these higher standards, to have these higher expectations of what it means to be a part of Kappa Kappa Psi. And when I really assess our organization with other fraternities, other groups, another fraternity that I was a part of, when I started thinking through some of these things, it's like, wow, I definitely went through some hazing activities with these other organizations, and I think about it, it's like, I did feel disrespected. I did feel like I didn't really want to do this, but I had to because that's what everyone was doing. So, for me, I'm even thinking about what are ways that we can build in beyond activity reviews, build into our chapter operations where people can anonymously give their feedback. And is there a structure that is year-round? Of course, we want to really focus on the recruitment events, the membership education process, but just throughout the year, what process do we have? What systems do we have that allows younger brothers who may not feel like they have that voice, or they may not feel like they want to step on somebody's toes or hurt somebody's feelings? What is a system that we can allow younger brothers, or just brothers who are quieter, more afraid to step out and speak up? What are these systems that we can really allow them to provide their feedback and, genuine feedback on how we can make this better? And I think that we are moving in the right direction as we are developing the Road to Wisdom, these activity reviews, and just really getting the feedback from, VPMs across the country on how we can build this. So for me, my challenge for a lot of our brothers who are watching this is to really think deep about this. And like you said, challenge each other and challenge these events in a way that's like, is this really holding up our ideals? Is this helping us build the skills necessary to live out our values, to carry out our purposes? So I really want us to focus on, rather than doing more just so that we can do more, focus on doing more with less and really focusing in on the value aspect of our activities.
I love that. And, when we created those activity reviews, first it was, we understood that chapters had things that they did that they wanted to hold on to. And so we wanted to provide a way for chapters to be able to do that. Second, what we realized was that chapters were doing activities and not thinking about why they did them. And that activity review form causes the individual to really reflect, what lesson does this meet? What's the educational purpose? What kind of activity is it? So there's some reflection built into completing that activity review form, but really it's to help decrease risk. And when, for example, if we have any sort of claim on our insurance from something that has happened, if we have any sort of claim on our insurance, that is one of the ways that dues get raised, because claims cause our insurance rates to go up. And it's not just like $5, like on my car insurance. It is thousands of dollars that our insurance will increase. And so that causes each member to have to pay a few more dollars in dues, which is, that's a big amount. It's a financial burden on our members when these things happen. And so I think that sometimes there could be the perception that nationals is just trying to control, or we want everybody to be the same. And I just want Kappa Kappa Psi to be here for another 100 years. And I want our fraternity to be a safe and inclusive place for everyone. And I want our fraternity to be the leader in creating safe educational environments. And we don't need those things to educate our members, because we are a values-based organization. We believe in musicianship, leadership, service, and brotherhood, and making those connections through our ritual, building relationships through the medium of the college band. And so we don't have to do those other activities to build brotherhood. We have values, we have a ritual, and that's how we're connected. And so those activity reviews, brothers, if you have activities out there and you're not sure, if there's something the chapter has done and you want to continue doing it, that's why we have activity reviews, because it allows you to submit that activity, tell us everything you're doing, and you're not going to get in trouble. We're not going to come after you, but we're going to give you guidance and say, hey, you know what? You're in line with our policies and that activity sounds great. Or we might say, hey, there's some great things here, but let me suggest some changes that you need to make and resubmit that activity, because there's just a few things that really kind of fall into that gray area. And there are some times where we have to say, I'm sorry, that activity is not in line with the road to wisdom, or that activity could violate our risk management policies. And so, no, you can't do it anymore. And so it's not that we want to limit chapters or take away individuality, but rather that, our job on the national level, or piece of our job, is to protect the corporation and to ensure that the fraternity is still here when I'm not here anymore. And so that does mean that we have to be very diligent when we're completing these reviews, and also doing things to help our members understand, like this video, and putting resources out there, because I think it's important to understand that why. But overall, when I think about some of the things that happen in chapters, and I can even think back to my own membership education process, we're a very different fraternity than we were when I became a member in 2003. And that's not that long ago. So as society has changed, as our organizations have changed, we have to make changes. One, some of these come from our insurance company, that reviews our policies or reviews the things that we do and make suggestions based on different lawsuits and things that are happening. For example, in Louisiana and Pennsylvania, they have very strict hazing laws now because of deaths. And I never want that to be Kappa Kappa Psi. So I'm very passionate about this subject, because I think that there is no activity that's worth the loss of a brother. There's no activity that's worth the loss of my fraternity. And I hope that brothers out there, as you start membership education, as you're engaged in it, as you're thinking about it, as you're beginning recruitment, please reach out to us. We're here to help. We're here to guide you through it. We're here to discuss your activities, offer support, talk about, if you can't do an activity anymore, but you still want to create whatever you got out of that activity, let us come up with new ideas. Let us help you. And not just me, we have the curriculum committee, curriculum@kkpsi.org. They can reach out to you, Bong, as a former curriculum advisor, as VPSA, bangco at kkpsi.org. I'm jessicalee at kkpsi.org. Please reach out to us. We are here. We are resources. And I don't want our brothers to be afraid to come forward and ask questions or throw ideas out there, because the best thing that you can do as a chapter is to ask questions. And because that helps create a strong foundation for a membership educational experience, because you're asking the why and you're being reflective before you even engage in the activity.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Jessica, for that very, I think that just as a really good explanation of really the depth and how important it is for us to be asking these questions, for us to be continually assessing our activities. I have a couple of questions for you, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So, you mentioned, let's say, let's talk about traditions for a bit. So, I've heard this, not yet in Kappa Kappa Psi, but in different organizations, I guess this term called legacies, where not only are they getting pressure from, alums or within the chapter, also from family members. I don't know how relevant that is to Kappa Kappa Psi, but when we're talking about, traditions, and we're talking about, potential hazing that is that we're calling it traditions. What are some things that brothers can do to circumvent or to have these conversations when it comes to pressure from alums, but also from potential family members?
Sure. I think the first place to start is always someplace tangible. So for me, it's our policies. So starting with our policies and bringing those out, because if you look at our hazing policy, it's pretty clear. Any action taken or situation created that produces mental or physical harm, discomfort, embarrassment, harassment, or ridicule. Such activities could include, but are not limited to, the use of alcohol, paddling, lineups, excessive fatigue, physical and psychological shock, quests, treasure hunts, scavenger hunts, road trips, wearing of public apparel that's not in good taste, public stunts, humiliating. We are clear in what our hazing policy says. And so I think that's the first measure of, okay, let's talk about this activity. And let's look at this hazing policy, and let's see if I see any elements of the hazing, what's described as hazing in this activity. I think that's the first place to start, because that one chapter making a poor choice could end Kappa Kappa Psi. One lawsuit could end Kappa Kappa Psi. And so I always challenge brothers on, is that activity worth the fraternity? Is that activity worth the chapter? Is that activity worth your membership in Kappa Kappa Psi? Because possibly doing an activity that could violate our risk management policies could cost you your membership, your chapter, or our fraternity. And is it worth it? The other thing that I think, if you're getting some kind of pressure, is, and this can be difficult, and I acknowledge that, but I think is if you don't feel comfortable standing up to that person and just saying, sorry, that's not something we're going to do. It's not in line in our policies and with what we believe. It's not in line with what we take oath as brothers. It's not in line with that. And if you don't feel comfortable standing up in that way, then finding the person that you are comfortable with and reporting to them. Reporting if somebody is putting pressure on you or wanting to get you to engage in hazing activities. So whether it's your chapter president, or it's your band director, your university, your district president, district council, your governors. We have a report a problem on our website. You can give contact information or do it anonymously. You can call national headquarters. You can email any person on the national leadership team, on the national council. All of these people are people that you can report to with any of these problems. And so knowing that you don't have to handle it alone, you don't have to confront that situation alone, that you can reach out for help. And there's a multitude of people that you can reach out to. And your university has resources to be able to access. So your university typically has some way to report hazing anonymously as well, or to report activities anonymously as well. Your university in your student affairs office can provide training on hazing. or for the chapter, for yourself. And so really looking at your university resources and going to your Office of Student Affairs and finding out, what resources are available, people to talk to, to get help with that problem. Because it can be difficult to face if you're getting that pressure from someone you respect or a family member. I would say that don't feel like you have to do it alone.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. I think that's incredibly powerful, and I really appreciate you going over our national definition of hazing and our policy, because it does include in there the different aspects of somebody's health. And it's not just, if you think, oh, I'm not harming them physically, then it's not hazing. But again,
Mm-hmm.
I think we all understand that harm can be done in many different aspects to an individual, and it may not show up right now, it may not show up tomorrow. It could last, stick with them for a very long time. So, I also encourage brothers to really think about someone's health holistically, and how is it really adding value to their experience as a brother. And just kind of, what you mentioned about, we're here to provide you with the knowledge, with the tools. So, are you, what do you need from us to help you feel empowered to have these conversations, to reach out? Again, Jessica mentioned all of these different resources, these different people that you could reach out to. And again, it is hard to have these conversations, but we are here. We are here to help you. We are here to support and to safeguard you. And at the end of the day, it's about your safety. And that's what we really care about, your experience and your safety. And my last question here, Jess, you kind of talked about insurance a bit. And for me, it took me a little bit of, as a student, a little bit of time to really wrap my head around this. We have this big organization. How many chapters are we at right now?
Around 215.
Right. So insurance to cover our whole organization nationally. And if a chapter, messes up, and let's say our insurance goes up, who does that cost fall upon?
So a portion of your national dues goes to our insurance rates. And just to give an example, when Jack Lee was VPSA in 2009, that was 10 years ago. When Jack was VPSA, one of his first actions as VPSA was to raise dues. Right after National Convention, they had to raise dues because our insurance rates had increased. And there is a cost per member when our insurance rates increase. And so to know that we have about 6,000 brothers across the country, and if we have to raise dues by $5 when we have 6,000 members roughly across the country, that just means our insurance rates just went up $30,000. So it's not a little bit when claims are filed on our insurance because of potential lawsuit or litigation or hazing violation or risk management policy violation. So it's serious. And the thing that chapters need to remember with these activities is that your consent in the activity does not mean it isn't hazing. So whether you choose to do something or whether you're forced, it's still hazing if that activity violates our policies.
What if
whatever other policy it is? Pardon?
What if I like the activity?
So Jack Lee wrote an article several years ago called "Is It Hazing If I Like It?" And we're going to be sharing it on our social media. And so, sometimes there's people that have come, in the course of having conversations and saying, well, I don't mind being hazed. I don't mind having to prove myself. Well, it doesn't matter. It's still hazing. It doesn't matter if you like it. It doesn't matter if you agree. None of those things mitigate the fact that it could be an activity. Your voluntary, for example, your voluntary participation in a lineup doesn't mean it's not a lineup and doesn't mean it doesn't violate our hazing policies. So, I think that's another point too, because I think people think, well, if I'm willing to do it, then it's fine. No. And again, I challenge brothers, is the activity worth the fraternity? And is it in line with what we believe as an organization? Because whenever I have to explain to people why I'm still involved in Kappa Kappa Psi and why I continue to do what I do, I talk about our values. I believe in musicianship, leadership, service, and brotherhood, and doing that through college bands and the relationships that we get to build with people across the country in our chapters, in our band programs, across our districts through the fraternity. And we are about people and about building the best possible experience in college band. And when I think about things like forcing people to memorize information in a lineup and spit it back out at me, none of that helps serve my band. And so that's another question to ask yourself is, this activity that I'm forcing people to do, how does that help serve the band? What does that have to do with band service, with musicianship, with leadership? And I think, brothers, that you'll find if you're honest about those answers to those questions, that it can be very easy to make change in the chapter, but there has to be people willing to stand up and say something. So again, we're here to help you make change. We're here to answer your questions. We want to help you through making those transitions in your chapters. So please submit those activity reviews. Please reach out for help. It is not a gotcha. It's a let us help you make the transition. Let us help you through those activities. Let us talk about how the chapter can make changes and what does the chapter feel like afterwards, how to have those conversations. We're here for you. And we want to help you with that. And this is our whole national leadership team. That's your governors, that's your district council, your national council, the board of trustees, headquarters staff. We are all here for you. And we want, our goal, to me, our goal as a national council is to safeguard the fraternity, but to also create the best possible experience for our active members. And in our chapters, we should be creating the best possible experience for our bands and providing that service, but also in the education of our members, we should be creating the best possible experience for our members in training as well. When we think about membership education, we offer that invitation for membership, and then we need to offer our support and our interest in making sure that those people are successful. And that means creating a positive, supportive environment, offering and extending that hand of fellowship, teaching them about the fraternity, our history, our documents, and how we function, but our values. And choosing people who believe what we believe, and then creating, guiding, and creating this warm, welcoming atmosphere for them to become brothers. So if you're not building that within your chapter membership education program, then it's time to ask some questions. And if you feel like you can do better, then you probably are doing the right thing, because our motto is to strive for the highest, and we should always be looking to do better. So I hope that this, if you're watching, that this video is helpful to you. I hope that for some of you, this may be the thing that you needed and it's resonating with you. And for others, it might just give you something to think about. But either way, we hope that you'll reach out to Bong and myself, bangco at kkpsi.org, jessicalee at kkpsi.org, curriculum at kkpsi.org. We're here for you. We're ready for your questions. We're ready to get to work. And we appreciate you tuning in.
Same here. That was a great wrap up. Did better than I definitely could have. So again, brothers, thank you so much for tuning in. This, obviously we could talk about this for hours and hours because it is so important. But again, we want you to take this information, take the tools that we are providing you, the resources we're providing you to ask questions, to have these conversations. So again, my name is Bong, and Jessica over here, we're super, super glad that we are here to serve you. So again, please do reach out. And as always, AEA, and go band.